a purpose and didn't know exactly where I was going to end up or what exactly that might have been.
Lori, like the same exact pose.
He looks like Mini-Me with Dr. Evil.
Man, that breakup between Michael B. Jordan and Lori Harvey never sat right with people. And now the story coming out is wild. Folks are saying it wasn't just a regular split. It got messy behind the scenes, and one name keeps popping up: Diddy. Word is, he stepped in and made sure there was no chance of those two spinning the block again, and the way he did it has everybody side-eyeing the situation hard. The talk going around? Diddy supposedly sent Michael a freak-off tape involving Lori right after learning about his connection to Cassie. Yeah, that's the kind of move that shifts everything instantly and leaves no room for second chances.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting your musical guests for the evening, Drake and 21 Savage, performing a song off of one of the most relatable albums of all time, Her Loss.
And if you're thinking this is all just chatter, hold up, there's more. Diddy's ex, Gina, didn't stay quiet either. She straight up said she saw explicit photos of Diddy and Lori herself, sitting right there on his phone. Now let's really get into it, because this situation keeps getting deeper the more you look at it. If we're talking about the possibility of explicit footage connected to those so-called freak-off moments, people are starting to believe there's a real chance something like that exists. And that alone has folks raising eyebrows everywhere. But here's where it gets tricky. Why would Diddy even send something like that to Michael B. Jordan when both of them were involved with Lori Harvey at completely different times?
He had shown me a picture of me and him, the first pic that we ever took, and I was like, you should save that as your screensaver. So he was like, I don't know how. So I was trying to show him, and I saved the picture to his photo album on his phone, and then I clicked on the photo album to like set it as a screensaver, and I saw a picture of him and Lori, like the same exact pose.
What do you mean?
I mean, the same exact pose that he took with me.
Okay.
And he did the same with Lori.
Were they clothed or not?
No.
They weren't clothed?
No.
Lori Harvey.
That's not random behavior. That's calculated, and people are reading between the lines heavy. The streets are saying this goes back to Cassie Ventura. Apparently, Michael had his own situation with her during one of her breaks from Diddy, and that didn't sit right at all. So instead of letting it slide, the move being talked about is that Diddy fired back in a way meant to get under Michael's skin and shut things down before they could even escalate. And here's where things take another sharp turn. There's talk that Michael isn't exactly sitting quiet through all this either. Behind closed doors, it's being said he has his own side of the story he could bring out, and it's not light.
Never try to fit in when God has clearly created you to stand out. Always be a lady. And understand you are the prize.
One of the most talked about claims floating around involves Lori and Diddy dealing with a private situation tied to a pregnancy that never became public. Now imagine all of that sitting under the surface while the public only saw a clean breakup story. Yeah, this whole situation starts looking way more layered than anyone first thought. I need you locked in for this one, because the timeline alone has people raising eyebrows like crazy. From the very beginning, folks couldn't ignore how strange it looked seeing Sean Combs, a full-grown industry veteran, suddenly linked up with a much younger Lori Harvey.
Lori Harvey was hanging out, and it's kind of weird. Like the whole relationship looks weird. He looks like Mini-Me with Dr. Evil. It's weird. Like, why are there people? Why is there sexual behavior going on? And why are people naked in front of their kids, G? Doing all kinds of stuff.
The energy around it didn't feel normal to a lot of people, especially when you realize how soon this all started playing out after Kim Porter passed away. And here's what made it even heavier. Lori wasn't just some random name around that circle. She had openly shown love to Kim, even referring to her as Mama Kim in her own posts, which made the whole situation hit different for people watching from the outside. Still, despite how it looked, both sides kept pushing the narrative that nothing serious was going on, trying to frame everything as just a friendship. But come on now, the public wasn't blind. These two were moving way too close for it to be brushed off like that. They were popping up everywhere together. Music festivals, late-night outings, private events, and yeah, even strip clubs made that list. It wasn't low-key either. It was consistent, and people were catching on fast. Then things escalated even more when Lori was seen traveling with Diddy on what looked like full-on family trips. We're talking Italy, with Steve Harvey and Marjorie Harvey right there in the mix. That alone had people confused. Because now, it wasn't just industry rumors. It was blending into family territory. And that made everything feel a lot more serious than what was being said publicly. And just when people thought it couldn't get any more intense, here came the pregnancy whispers. Those rumors didn't just appear out of nowhere either. They were fueled by what people were seeing with their own eyes. During that 2019 Mexico trip, photos started making rounds showing Diddy getting real comfortable, placing his hands on Lori's stomach in a way that had everybody talking. It wasn't subtle, and people picked up on it immediately. Now pause for a second and really think about this. Why would Steve Harvey, someone who built his whole brand around giving relationship advice and presenting himself as a man of structure, be completely at ease with his daughter being involved in something like this? That question right there has never really gone away. Because from the outside looking in, it just didn't add up. People started wondering if there was more going on behind closed doors that the public wasn't being told. Was there pressure? Was there leverage? Or was there something deeper that made everyone move a little quieter than expected? And that's where the conversation starts getting real uncomfortable.
Anything away from anybody else. So there was just kind of firm belief that I was walking this path and I had a purpose and didn't know exactly where I was going to end up or what exactly that might have been.
Some are questioning whether there were situations or information floating around that kept certain people from speaking up or stepping in. Because when things don't make sense on the surface, it usually means there's another layer nobody's addressing yet. Now this is where things really start heating up because not everybody is staying quiet about this situation anymore. Jaguar Wright jumped right into the conversation, and she didn't hold back at all when it came to Steve Harvey and Marjorie Harvey. She's basically calling them out for playing along with what she sees as the industry's long-running habit of keeping certain things buried instead of addressing them head-on. And the way she framed it, she used Lori Harvey as a key example to make her point loud and clear. According to Jaguar, there's no way the Harveys were clueless about what was happening around Sean Combs. In her view, they saw everything, or at least enough of it, and made a choice to stay silent instead of stepping in. She's suggesting that protecting their image and keeping their position in those elite circles mattered more than speaking up. And she's not buying any version of events where they claim they didn't know what was going on. To her, that idea doesn't even sound believable. It sounds like damage control. And then she took it even further. Jaguar pointed out how Lori was seen publicly, not just with Diddy, but also around his son, Justin Combs. And she's saying that alone should have raised serious questions. In her eyes, that wasn't just regular dating behavior. It was something way more complicated, something that should have made people pause and ask what was really happening behind the scenes. What really has her talking now is how the tone has shifted. As more people start putting distance between themselves and Diddy, Jaguar is watching it all unfold and calling it out in real time. She's basically saying it's ironic to see folks act like they were never part of that environment when not too long ago they were right there in it. And the way she's reacting, she's not subtle about it at all. She's openly mocking the sudden silence, questioning how people can switch up so fast when the spotlight changes direction, and making it clear she's not letting that narrative slide without saying something. If you really step back and look at everything, a lot of people are starting to say that relationship never added up on a normal level. The way it moved, the timing, the connections, it all felt off to some observers unless there was some kind of pressure behind the scenes pushing things in a certain direction. Now, the conversation is shifting hard, because new claims are painting a completely different picture of why Michael B. Jordan and Lori Harvey suddenly went their separate ways in 2022. Publicly, it was wrapped up nicely with talk about different life stages. But behind the scenes, people are saying it was nowhere near that simple. The version that's been circulating, it ties everything right back to Sean Combs again. The claim is that he sent Michael a compromising video connected to Lori, and that moment completely changed the trajectory of their relationship. That's not just drama. That's something that would shake anybody and force decisions fast. And here's where the timeline starts connecting in a way that has people talking even more. Cassie Ventura had already revealed in court testimony that she and Michael had a brief situation after discovering Diddy was being unfaithful. That piece alone adds a whole new layer, because it means Michael wasn't just a random outsider. He had insight into things that weren't public knowledge at the time. As her legal team started building their case, which apparently goes back further than most people realized, the stakes around who knew what and who could potentially speak started getting higher and higher. So the theory being pushed right now is intense. The idea is that Diddy wanted to make sure Michael stayed out of anything connected to Cassie's situation, especially if he had firsthand knowledge of what she was dealing with back then. And if you think about it from that angle, the move people are describing starts to look a lot more strategic than random. Because by sending something that personal and damaging, it wouldn't just create distance, it would shut things down completely, fast and final. And this is where everything starts looking even heavier, because the aftermath of that breakup didn't look normal at all. People couldn't help but notice how Michael B. Jordan was moving right after things ended with Lori Harvey. We're talking about a complete shift in energy. He was spotted at an NBA game not long after, and fans immediately picked up on it. He didn't look like someone going through a regular split. He looked drained, distant. almost like something hit way deeper than expected. And then came the digital cleanup, which happened fast. Both of them unfollowed each other almost instantly and wiped their pages clean of any trace of their relationship. 2 years together, gone just like that, like it never even happened. That kind of move always gets people talking because it usually means something serious went down behind the scenes. Then Michael added even more fuel to the conversation with that "her loss" comment during a public moment. That wasn't just a random line people brushed off. It stuck. A lot of fans took it as him finally letting a little bit of his feelings show, like he had been holding something in and was just starting to process everything that happened. And what really made people question things even more was this. Out of all the relationships Lori had been linked to, this was the one that seemed the most stable on the outside. Compared to her past connections, including the one with Memphis Depay and later situations that had people talking, this one felt different to the public. Even behind closed doors, there were whispers that Steve Harvey actually preferred Michael over the others. After some of Lori's previous situations raised eyebrows, people were saying Michael helped smooth things over and brought a more polished image back into the picture. But that's what makes the ending hit even harder, because if this was the relationship that checked the most boxes publicly and privately, then whatever caused it to fall apart had to be something major, something strong enough to undo all of that in a matter of moments. And once you start lining up the timing, the reactions, and everything that followed, it starts to feel like the public only saw a fraction of what was really going on, and the rest of it is still sitting just beneath the surface, waiting to come out. And just when people thought they had a clear read on that breakup, another angle started picking up serious traction. The conversation shifted toward what that relationship actually represented for Lori Harvey behind the scenes. According to insiders, being with Michael B. Jordan wasn't only about feelings. It also helped reshape how the public viewed her, almost like a full image reset that brought her back into a more polished spotlight. You could see it happening in real time, too. While they were together, the narrative around Lori softened, and suddenly she was being framed in a completely different light. That's why people kept saying Steve Harvey had a quiet preference for Michael out of everyone she had been linked to, because from a reputation standpoint, it just worked. But the second things ended, all that stability flipped into speculation. The internet wasted no time throwing out theories, and one of the loudest ones centered around Michael's dating history. There's been ongoing chatter that he tends to move within a very specific lane when it comes to who he dates, and Lori didn't exactly match what people believed that pattern to be. So when the breakup became public, fans were already watching closely, and what came next only added fuel to the discussion. Almost immediately, sightings started circulating of Michael out in Hollywood, with a woman people described in a very particular way. The comparisons came fast, with many saying she had that Kardashian-style look, which instantly had people connecting it back to those earlier claims about his preferences. Then another layer dropped. A gym sighting story started making rounds, with someone claiming they saw him working out alongside a brunette who matched that same aesthetic, dark hair, a very sculpted look, and a presence that stood out enough for people to start talking. But even with all of that, a lot of people weren't convinced this explained everything. Because when you line it up with how abrupt the split was and the way both of them moved right after, it still feels like there's a bigger piece of the story sitting just out of reach. And that missing piece is what keeps everyone locked into this situation. And when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this is where the conversation starts getting even more layered. Some people aren't looking at Lori Harvey's relationships as random at all. They're saying there's a pattern, and that every move had a purpose behind it. The word being thrown around is transactional, meaning each connection served a role at a certain time, whether it was image, access, or influence. Before things ever got serious with Michael B. Jordan, Lori had already been linked to a long list of names that kept her right in the spotlight. There was talk about her being connected to Abu, known as the brother of Akon, and then later Damson Idris was also part of the conversation. Each situation added another layer to how people perceived her dating history. Then came the chapter with Future, which really had social media locked in. Toward the end of 2019, the two were already moving like a couple, celebrating New Year's together before making things official in early 2020. That Jamaica trip for Lori's 23rd birthday? Yeah, that wasn't low-key at all. It was full-on public, full-on romantic, and everybody was watching. And even before that, there was the situation with Sean Combs, where they were spotted in multiple cities: Italy, Mexico, New York, Atlanta, moving in a way that had people convinced something serious was going on. Those appearances weren't isolated. They kept happening, which only made the rumors louder. But things didn't stop there. Around the same time, another rumor started circulating that Lori had also been linked to Diddy's son, Justin Combs, which added a whole different kind of tension to the narrative people were building in their heads. And if you go even further back, you'll find more names in the mix. In 2018, Lori was connected to Trey Songz, and not long after that situation cooled off, She was reportedly seen getting close with Lewis Hamilton during a Super Bowl weekend party in 2019. When you line all of this up, it starts to paint a picture that people can't stop dissecting, because it's not just about who she dated. It's about how quickly each situation transitioned into the next, and how every move kept her right at the center of attention. And if you go even further back, the timeline keeps stacking up in a way that people can't ignore. Back in 2016, Lori Harvey was linked to Dutch football star Memphis Depay, and that situation wasn't casual at all. By mid-2017, they were already engaged, which showed just how serious things had gotten at that point. It looked like she had found something stable, but as we've seen, that chapter didn't last either. So now, when people look at everything that happened with Michael B. Jordan, the opinions split fast. Some are saying maybe it's just a pattern of relationships not sticking long-term, while others believe there was way more going on beneath the surface that never made it into the public version of events. There's also been talk that the relationship itself may have had a public image angle to it, but that theory doesn't explain the intensity of how things ended, because when you line it up with everything else being said, another explanation starts getting louder, and it circles right back to Sean Combs. The claim that's been making rounds is that Michael may have been shown footage connected to Lori that he couldn't ignore, and that moment shifted everything for him instantly. That's not something you just brush off. That's the kind of thing that changes how you see a situation overnight. And then there are the details people keep pointing to when they try to connect the dots. Diddy's ex, Gina, already said she saw explicit images involving Lori, which alone had people talking. But now, others are looking at smaller details that suddenly seem more significant than they once did. One of those details? The white nail polish Lori was seen wearing in certain photos with Diddy? At first, it didn't seem like anything unusual. But after Cassie Ventura's lawsuit brought out claims about specific conditions during those private situations, people started re-examining everything with a different lens. According to what came out, Cassie said there were moments where she was told to present herself in very particular ways, including wearing white nail polish during certain encounters. That detail alone has people going back and questioning whether what they were seeing publicly was tied to something much deeper behind closed doors. Now take that information and put yourself in Michael's position for a second. Imagine being confronted with visuals tied to someone you're in a serious relationship with, tied to environments that weren't public, luxury hotels, private homes, controlled settings, and suddenly realizing there's a side of the story you never saw coming. And what makes this even more intense is what Cassie described about the recordings themselves. She explained that even when she believed certain photos or videos were gone, Diddy still had access to them. There was even a moment she spoke about where she was made to watch footage she thought had already been deleted, which completely changes how people view control over those situations. So when you connect all these pieces, the timeline, the claims, the reactions, it starts to paint a picture that feels way more complicated than a simple breakup story. And the more people dig into it, the more it starts to look like whatever really happened between Michael and Lori didn't just end quietly, it unraveled under pressure that most people never even saw coming. Now really sit with this for a second, because this is where the whole situation hits different. You've got Michael B. Jordan, one of the most respected young actors in Hollywood, thinking he finally found something real, only for everything to flip in the worst way possible. Imagine being confronted with something that personal, coming from someone like Sean Combs, who wasn't just a random figure, but someone directly tied to your partner's past and your own connections too. That kind of moment doesn't just break a relationship, it shakes your entire sense of trust. And suddenly, the way Michael looked after the breakup starts making a lot more sense to people. That distant, drained energy fans noticed? It didn't feel like someone just dealing with heartbreak. It felt heavier, like something much deeper had gone down behind the scenes. Now, here's where the conversation takes another turn. The word is that Michael isn't just sitting on this quietly. There's talk that he's been holding on to information tied to a private situation involving Lori Harvey and Diddy that was handled away from the public eye, including claims connected to that 2019 pregnancy situation people kept whispering about. And if that's true, think about what that really means. Because anything like that being revealed wouldn't just affect one person. It would ripple straight into the image of Steve Harvey and the entire brand built around him. A reputation centered on guidance, structure, and values suddenly gets put under a microscope in a way nobody expected. At the same time, it would only add more pressure onto Diddy, whose name is already tied to so many conversations right now. So if Michael really does have insight into what happened behind closed doors, that puts him in a position most people wouldn't even know how to handle. And then there's the bigger angle people keep bringing up. For a while, the narrative painted Michael as the one who walked away or couldn't commit. But if his side ever fully comes out, it flips everything. Suddenly, it's not about preferences or timing anymore. It becomes about being caught in something way bigger than a relationship. That's why some are calling it a form of protection for him, holding on to what he knows just in case things ever go left again. Because in an industry where stories get shaped behind the scenes, having your own truth ready can change everything in a second. And with all these names popping back up into the spotlight lately, people are starting to wonder if something is already building behind the scenes. Because if he learned as much as people think from both Lori and even Cassie Ventura during different points in time, then this story might not be as finished as it looks. If you're rocking with this breakdown, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and tap subscribe. Because this story's far from over.